The concept of witchcraft can be traced back thousands of years, and countless stories can be linked to the practice of witchcraft around the world. Witchery is commonly perceived as a bunch of individuals chatting with Satan, casting spells and boiling poisons to become more toxic than Mountain Dew. However, witchery did not have the same negative associations in every part of the world. For example, hieroglyphs depicting the supernatural forces and ritualistic magic are found in the oldest pyramids in Egypt. So, the Egyptian to-do list was magic first, then building pyramids. Thousands of years later, the Christian church in early medieval Europe was somewhat skeptical of the existence of witches and viewed the whole idea as misguiding, which makes sense when you are all in promoting the existence of God, Jesus, and some more of that. Magic and witchcraft were often seen as remnants of paganism, and those practicing it were typically viewed as plain-out ignorant rather than malevolent. Because the church does not need a lot of time to show they can be dickheads, by the 12th and 13th centuries, attitudes began to change. The church started to associate witchcraft more directly with heresy. However, the full-scale prosecution of witches was not yet established. Executions were relatively rare, and prosecution often meant excommunication or imprisonment. Not too shabby compared to what was coming. During the late Middle Ages, the church began to get more creative dealing with witches and magic, probably because the whole witch thing was now becoming more of a thing, and the church reckoned people were dumb enough to obey them exploiting this whole thing. From the 15th century onwards, witches were believed to make pacts with the devil, exchanging their souls for magic powers. People also believed witches were able to cast spells and curses. Another feature witches were known for was shapeshifting, or transgenderism as we know it today. Basically, you could just identify to be a crazy flying bitch with a long pole between your legs. Sound familiar? Witches were also known for abducting children. Besides that, they were accused of causing infertility. Particularly the church feared this. The combination of priests, infertility, and missing children, not comforting at all. And speaking of people trying to keep track of your every move, some things never change. Back then it was the church, today it's your internet provider, advertisers, and a few digital witch hunters watching everything you do online. That's why this video is sponsored by CyberGhost VPN, one of the best VPN services out there, with over 38 million users worldwide. A VPN, or virtual private network, creates a secure encrypted tunnel between you and the internet, using secure servers in 100+ countries, so no one can spy on what you do online. CyberGhost encrypts your data, hides your IP address, and keeps your online activity completely private, no witchcraft required. You can use it on up to 7 devices at once, unblock content from Netflix, Amazon Prime, and more, and it even comes with a 45-day money-back guarantee. Go to www.cyberghostvpn.com/Mitsi Studio to get 83% off and 4 months free, and protect yourself from the modern-day witch hunt. Anyway, the list of activities a witch could engage in and therefore be prosecuted for was getting longer. All this resulted in the infamous Inquisition. After some time, inquisitors were authorized to investigate and prosecute individuals accused of witchcraft. It goes without saying that these investigations brought a certain amount of pain and discomfort to the ones targeted by the church or the people. Especially that last one was a bit tricky, since anybody could be accused by almost anyone just by pointing a finger. Try talking your way out of such a watertight judicial process. Even men could be accused of being a witch, but most times the victims were women of old age or people with status who were put on trials for all kinds of reasons. Go figure. A great example that shows how primitive these trials would become are the Northampton witch trials. The main accuser was Elizabeth Belcher, who disliked a young lady called Joan Brown. Elizabeth claimed the young lady put a spell on her. When she fell ill, that was all she needed to take things to court. Her brother William joined in on the accusations. He claimed he visited Brown's cottage to lift the curse, but an invisible wall stopped him. Now that sounds like very strong evidence to dispute during a trial, but to be fair, one of our jokes would probably also have her burned at the stake in those days. To make these trials even more pathetic, witch hunters and courts often received financial support to prosecute these witches. To obtain any confessions, the accused were suspended by their wrists, which were tied behind their backs, often resulting in dislocated shoulders. They're not very pleasant. When using the rack, the accused were tied to a frame and their bodies became stretched, causing severe pain and potential dislocation of limbs. Waterboarding was also used, and I was hoping not having to explain this one would save us some time. Thumb screws screwed up your thumbs, which makes sense, and iron boots fucked up your feet, causing intense pain to the victim. You can imagine many people screamed and ultimately confessed to being a witch. Hell, I would even confess to fingering Maria in a bend-over position just to get out of that pickle. For many victims, the torture was followed by a death sentence, although sometimes it was difficult to say where one ended and the other began. Some women got executed by hanging or beheading, nothing special about that, until it happens to you, of course. Other forms of execution included being burned or drowned. When drowned, people believed if a person was a witch, they would float for some reason. If the accused were innocent, they would sink. Let me tell you, one does not need a degree in this field to figure out the outcome was going to be bad for the accused either way. Another cruel execution method was called pressing, where heavy stones were placed on a victim's chest. It's not a given that this method was more or less practical than the other ones. It just looked gruesome, so it was a good deterrent for any would-be witches. As we mentioned earlier, most of the people pulled from the streets and prosecuted were women. To be more precise, around 75 to 80% of those accused were female. With women generally having a hard time throughout history, it's kind of refreshing to see them finally being well represented in at least one field. Now don't come after me for that joke, you bunch of Karens, or I'll send the Inquisition squad to hunt you all down. Anyway, moving on with the story. It's tough to pin down the exact number of victims who were tried and executed across Europe, but if we had to guess, probably a lot. Most executions took place in the northern regions of the Holy Roman Empire, what we now call Germany. So, before Germany was Germany, lots of killings. Once Germany was Germany, still lots of killings, truly a rich history. In some Middle Eastern countries, stoning was more common for women accused of witchcraft. These days, however, most of these countries have modernized, and in some of them, stoning is now reserved only for women who dare to speak their minds. Ouch! And if we hop over to Central Africa, witch hunts are still prevalent in multiple African cultures. Countries like Nigeria, Tanzania, and Congo see many cases of elderly women or children being punished for other people's misfortunes. In the country of Malawi, more than 70% of the population still believes witchcraft is the instigator for all kinds of problems. One of them being the bad economic situation of the country, I guess. Although if 70% of your people still believe in witches, maybe you've got your first hint why your economy is beyond fucked. On top of that, you have no white American or European inquisitor to blame for that mess. Nope, this is on you guys. We hope you enjoyed our flaming witchcraft video. If you like these deep dives into history, make sure to subscribe and check out some more videos on our channel. See you around.